Okay, I'm super excited to welcome our amazing next presenters, Alexa Norstad and Krista Williams. They are from the Center for Eco-Literacy in Berkeley, and their session is called Intention Setting for Farm to School Programming. Take it away. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We are so excited to be here with you today. As Amy said, I'm Krista Williams, and I'm the program manager for our California Food for California Kids network. And I'm joined by
Alexa Norstad. I'm the director of programs for the Center for Eco-Literacy.
And our colleague Laura Benitez will be sharing some information via the chat and moderating any questions that you have. So while we're letting a few more people get settled in, if you haven't had a chance to share your name and your organization and one of your early memories of growing or cooking your own food, we invite you to do that in the chat. And you can read through what some of the other folks have already shared. And just to reiterate, we're really excited to be here with all of you today to guide you through an intention and goal setting process for your farm to school programming. And as part of today's session, we'll be exploring the different pillars of farm to school and identify goals for each one that can be carried out from whatever your role is, whether you're an educator, a food service staff, or a community partner. We know that all of these are really important roles for creating successful farm to school programs. And as part of this session, we'll be going into several different breakout rooms. And as Amy already shared, we encourage you to turn on your camera if possible when you're in those breakout rooms, and to just use the time to connect with your colleagues across the state. So I'll share a little bit more about the Center for Eco-Literacy. We established the California Food for California Kids initiative in 2009 to advance school food system change and create reinforcing connections between the classroom, the cafeteria, and the garden. The initiative builds the capacity and commitment of food service directors and school district leaders to provide all students with fresh, locally grown food, and to educate those same students about where their food came from and how their food choices can make a difference for their communities and for the planet. Essentially, farm to school. We support school districts in meeting these shared goals through trainings, curriculum, marketing materials, network opportunities, and more. And one of our foundational programs for supporting school food system change is our California Thursdays program. Now, some of you may recognize this logo. Maybe your district even participates in the program. And California Thursdays has proven to be an excellent starting point for districts seeking to serve more fresh and local ingredients. Starting with just one day a week on Thursdays, districts develop their capacity to purchase, prepare, and serve food that is as fresh and local as possible. And when districts start out on this journey, it can be with something simple, like a farmer market salad bar or sides that feature California grown produce. And this can expand into offerings that emphasize scratch cooking and local products and moves really towards the center of the plate, like what you see here from Vista on the left and Calistoga on the right. And time again, we see districts grow their successful California Thursdays program to more days of the week, and it really transforms their menu. And we also recognize the importance of teaching students about where their food comes from and how it reaches their cafeteria tray. So to support food service and educators in engaging students in the cafeteria, in the classroom, and in the garden, we create resources that help establish these powerful and reinforcing lessons throughout the whole school community. And this includes lessons for classroom educators to support them in using food systems as a lens for teaching Common Core or next generation science standards. And we've also created engaging activities for informal educators that provide extending learning for all ages and settings, including after-school programs and libraries. And in addition to the standard connections, our lessons and activities have things like quick facts and anatomical posters to help explore how different California fruits and vegetables grow. For example, we've used this radish exercise in countless settings to examine dissected radishes under a magnifying glass. Children and adults alike are delighted to learn that you can actually color with both the roots and the leaves of a radish. And with that, I'll pass it over to Alexa to share a little more.
Thank you, Krista. So the central pillars of the California Food for California Kids initiative that Krista just walked us through: local procurement, scratch cooking, garden and culinary education, and food literacy. That's how the Center for Eco-Literacy defines farm to school. And our own shorthand for this is eating, learning, and growing. We're going to be using this to frame out today's session, and we're going to be asking ourselves the question: what does the school day look like when student health is supported by healthy, fresh, local food, and the entire campus is a flourishing ecosystem of integrated learning environments connected to community and to the natural world? What would schools look like in their fullest expression of eating, learning, and growing? So we know these are still very strange and trying times, and we know that many, and maybe even most of you, have been doing some sort of virtual distance, remote, grab and go existence for nearly a year now, and maybe you're scrambling to get back in person right now too. But you're here with us today, and we are very, very grateful for that, because it means that you share our vision and our passion for what farm to school can be. And it means that you understand that each and every one of you has a role to play in successful and sustainable farm to school programming. So now we want to ask you, what does farm to school mean to you? So this is the first engaging aspect of today's session. Take a minute, think quietly to yourself, jot down some notes if you'd like, and then we're going to point you to a Padlet that we'll be using throughout today's session, where we'll be collectively adding everybody's thoughts together into one spot. So pencils up, mouths closed. Okay, I'm going to actually ask for my colleague Abby Halpern's assistance to show you how our Padlet works today. Our hope is that this will be a digital space that'll spark new ideas and build connections that'll support you in meeting your goals. And it'll be something that you can take with you after the session to keep as a reference point on your journey. So here is what it looks like. You will use that little plus sign to add your post. And once you click it, you'll see title, which you'll put your role at your school district or your organization. And then you'll type in, for this section, you'll type in what your definition of farm to school is. What does farm to school mean to you?
Kind of walk us through what intention setting is going to look like. We know that this year has been really challenging, and yet we have seen amazing, amazing examples of what schools are doing to hold on to their farm to school values, even though things look a lot different than they would in a normal school year. And so today we're going to use the framework of eating, learning, and growing to guide us in setting intentions or goals for each one of these areas. And as we go through each category for the goal setting, we'll provide examples of what you and your colleagues have been doing to embody these values, both during COVID and before. And we have just been so impressed by this community's commitment to holding and reimagining what farm to school can look like, especially over this past year. And we hope that all of these examples will inspire you as you think about what you can do in your role to uphold or initiate farm to school values in your school and your organization. So after we share a few examples, you'll have a moment to reflect on your own intention or goal that you'd like to set, and then we'll go back and revisit that Padlet so you can add it there. And then you'll have about 5 minutes in a breakout group to talk with a few other people about your goal and intentions. And this is a time for you to get more ideas and possibly problem solve a few of the challenges you anticipate in your process. So I'll pass it back to Alexa to get us started off with the first category.
Thanks, Krista. So our first category is eating. I think we all know here, maybe from various perspectives, that food can be a very powerful teacher. And since everybody eats, that means that each meal represents a powerful learning opportunity. So I'm going to show you just a few images. Here's a lunch from San Diego Unified during one of their California Thursday celebrations, actually, a few years ago. Not only did they serve this meal that they sourced entirely from California, but they used it as an opportunity to celebrate and educate their students about how that meal arrived on their plates. Here is a salad bar in a pandemic. This is from Natomas Unified, and it's showcasing some lettuce from nearby Fiery Ginger Farms, and it was their creative workaround on how to get a popular taco salad into a format that was safe during the pandemic. We've also seen districts shift to include a ton of bulk produce boxes with whole fruits and vegetables at meal pickups. I could fill a whole photo book with some of the gorgeous images that we've seen of these produce boxes. This one is from North Monterey County. It's proven to be a fantastic way to include local items alongside the meals. It gives families an opportunity to engage with and try new things or prepare a dish together as a family. We've also seen some really cool ways that folks have been collaborating with bringing education into their meal distribution. So this is a partnership with local libraries passing out free books to kids during meal pickup times. And then I'm going to end with some maybe old familiar messages. We all know how wonderful a tool is that taste test can be. So this is in Pajaro Valley. They're doing a local flatbread taste, and whichever ones the students love best, that will go into their house-built Mediterranean hummus boxes. And I'd like to leave us with what the lunch period used to look like. And since we're future looking today, I think that's fitting. So this is Mount Diablo Unified. Students chowing down on an absolute rainbow of locally sourced fruits and veggies, some of which grew right there at their school. So again, now it's your turn. What is one way that you can support students in eating more local produce? What will you do? So same thing, we'll take a couple of minutes just to think about your answer, jot down your ideas, and then we'll be putting you into breakout rooms to talk through those ideas and navigate back to the Padlet to add them. Wanted to call out a couple of highlights from the Padlet. I don't know if you all are scrolling through, but it'll stay live and keep doing that throughout the session today and after. Let's see, from a STEM program manager, we've got connecting the cafeteria to the existing school garden and developing a partnership between the two. I love that. Overlaps there. We've got using social media to engage with families. There's been a lot more family engagement over the last year. Getting student voting into the process. Funding from CDFA, I love that. Leveraging statewide networks. Thanks everybody, that's great. And I can't wait to look through all of the inputs on the Padlet. So I'll pass to Krista now to take us through the next sections.
Wonderful. So our next category is learning, and this encompasses a wide range of learning spaces, from the formal classroom, to after school, FFA, the garden, even the cafeteria. Any space where students can learn about where their food comes from and how it reaches the table, as well as building their understanding of the relationship between human and natural systems, especially as it relates to food and climate change. And our first example comes from San Diego Unified, who's taken their monthly cafeteria taste tests online, giving out their Harvest of the Month featured crop every Wednesday, and then offering guided programming to accompany it via Facebook Live, where students can learn fun growing and nutritional facts and participate in a mindful eating activity. And also at Pajaro Valley Unified, And in partnership with LifeLab, they recently offered an online cooking workshop for students and families to learn how to make a healthy, flexible stir fry using ingredients that families picked up as part of their meal distribution, along with any other ingredients they wanted to add from home. And here, as part of a summer meals festival in Riverside County, kids are learning about the different parts of a radish using that activity that I talked about earlier. And it's amazing how once kids have had a chance to interact with the crop on a more personal level, they're much more open to eating it as well. And we also see here that students can engage in hands-on cooking activities in the classroom and make something simple to share with their classmates later. And that not all cooking requires heat, but there's a lot that you can do with just a few simple supplies. And in a similar way, culinary education can also be woven into an outdoor setting as part of garden lessons and with minimal materials. Imagine the power of being able to harvest something from the garden and immediately turn it into a meal or a snack to be shared. So now that you have a few ideas to get you thinking, what is one way that you can support students in learning about where their food comes from and its impact on the environment? So we're going to take a moment for you to think about it, and you can add your ideas to the Padlet underneath the learning heading. We'll go ahead and put that link for the Padlet back in the chat along with the prompt. And then once you've had about a minute to do that, we'll open up the breakout rooms for you to share your goals and discuss with your colleagues. All right, everyone, welcome back. Seen a lot of great things here on the Padlet. Things around youth advocacy and climate change is really huge, especially with middle and high school students, a great way to connect. Providing students the opportunity to get hands-on experience with farm to fork process, having field trips and farmer visits, virtual farm tours, lots of connecting the curriculum from the garden to the classroom, partnering with a local preschool and helping them get raised boxes. I love that, starting really early. It's great. Encourage you all later to go back and look at these. It's wonderful. Thank you, everyone. All right, so now we're going on to our last category. So growing. And anyone who has ever had the opportunity to grow their own food, even a simple pot of herbs, knows what a powerful learning experience that can be. The way that growing a plant turns our attention to things that we may not have noticed before, like soil health, or how some bugs are actually really helpful. And not all students may have access to a full garden, but that doesn't mean that they can't experience some of the wonders of growing their own food. In Mount Diablo Unified, they have 10 schools with intensive garden education for TK grade through grade 5 students. And this year they sent home a Sprout Your Own Pea Seed kit and a Grow Your Own Microgreens kit, with instructions shared in their newsletter and through social media and via YouTube for students and families to follow. And before COVID, they had integrated all of the subject matters into their garden time, not just science, whether it was using seeds to work on math problems or creating a list of adjectives to describe the way a cherry tomato feels and tastes. And these little pea plants here were part of a collective action day at Riverside Unified a couple of years ago. And even outside of COVID times, sending plants home with students and inviting them to take care of them and make observations is a great way to start building that connection and curiosity about living systems and where their food comes from. And as many of you know, it takes multiple roles in the school community to make a successful farm to school program. In this picture, we have a garden educator, a principal, a classroom educator, and a volunteer. And all of these roles really help make garden programming a reality in the same way that they support the larger farm to school programs. And I think that's something that we're seeing even just on the Padlet today, getting to see everybody's different roles and the ways that they can support these programs. So for our last category, what is one way that you can support students' hands-on experience of growing their own food? And we'll give you a moment to add your ideas onto the Padlet underneath the growing heading, and then we'll open up the breakout rooms for you again to share your goals and discuss with colleagues. There are so many great ideas on the Padlet. And in my group, we heard several different awesome ideas of ways to send seeds home with kids and have kids grow those in Ziploc bags with cotton balls. I'm seeing using leftover milk containers. I love recycling and lots of ways to use ag in the classroom curriculum here, and different growing kits that have really low cost. So definitely take some time later today, go back and look at some of these ideas on here. And I will pass it over to Alexa.
Thank you. This has been a power 45 minutes. To close today's session, we just want to acknowledge that successful farm to school programming, as you've all already demonstrated, takes a village. And so we want to challenge you to think of one person to reach out to when you get back to your school or your district or your organization that can support you in reaching some of the goals and intentions that you named here today. If any of you attended yesterday's session with CHIP, they have an excellent resource that is available in your conference packets where you identify 5 stakeholders, but we're just going to take a moment, go back to that Padlet and share out one stakeholder that you're committing to reach out to, and we'll activate some of the goals that you've named with us today. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate all of the energy and ideas and creativity and vision that you're bringing to your farm to school programming. And we can't wait to see what you all do when we get to go back in person next year.
Thank you all for joining us this morning and sharing so much. And if there's ways that we can support you in your programming, or you want to use any of the curriculum or the resources that we shared, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to partner and come alongside you in your farm to school process as well. Thank you all.